Hey there, Doug here. I wanted to tell everybody a little bit about my experience I've dealt with so far dealing with my car. I know there's been some posts on Facebook, and I've gotten numerous calls asking what's going on from both my local friends here in Dayton to some of my friends in other parts of the country from the previous communities I've been in, so on and so forth. And rather than sit here and try to type it all out and give you guys a big explanation on Facebook or respond to these messages, I thought maybe I would just record a little quick video here, kind of going over the circumstances. And my goal for doing this is not to make another shop look bad. It's more or less so you guys don't find yourself in the same situation. I know I have a lot of friends that are car enthusiasts that are probably watching this, that modify their cars and do different types of work. And I just want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation. And if you can learn anything from my lessons, then you're going to be better off in the future for it. And it's about doing your homework and maybe researching companies you work with. So anyway, now that we got that kind of out of the way, to get started with my situation, on my car, you know, I'm big into the drag racing scene. I got the Cadillac CTSV. Our goal was, you know, I am hired Tim King Racing to do my complete build. I wanted to do a full build. Our goal is to run 850s. That's our goal. We started the project in November, December, him as my builder. We were going to convert it from a supercharged application to a twin turbo application. And we were going to, at some point down the road, upgrade the transmission and so on and so forth. But for the beginning part of the year, we were going to stick with the stock transmission and see what it would hold. So we ordered a new motor, new turbos, the whole 9 yards. Tim King was in charge of all of it. And like I say, he's done a fantastic job so far. It came time to fabricate the piping for the turbo. I had already paid for the turbos. I already paid for the intake and so on and so forth. But I needed a custom fabrication for the turbo kit because obviously the CTSV is not built and designed for turbo, so it takes a little bit of time and work to do that. Tim had a shop working on his car that he was going to use and recommended that I use. And as I thought about it more and more, this is where my relationship with Mike and Proxes Tuning kind of came into play. I've used these guys in the past for many projects, with whether it be from my GTR I had or even working on my trailer. And you know, I had a great relationship with him, so I thought, you know what, let me talk to Mike. I know he's very particular, and I'm very, very detail oriented. I don't like anything to look out of place, whether it be visible on the car, under the car, behind the car. I'm pretty detail oriented. So we went and talked to Mike. I had already had a quote from another company for $5,500 to basically do my turbo piping, fabricate the intakes on my custom intercooler, and to run the exhaust out the back of the car from the turbo kit. So went to Mike at Proxes with this proposition saying, hey, you know, we've got a good relationship. Would you consider doing this work for me? He said he couldn't do it for less than $7,000. And I thought about it for a couple of days and said, you know what? I'm willing to pay for quality, and he's willing to do the work. So that's, you know, so we agreed. I took Tim to his shop with me because Tim had my car as he was doing the motor build, so on and so forth. And we all kind of agreed on what was going to be done, so on and so forth. So handshake agreement, nothing in writing, nothing signed, just a verbal, yes, we'll take care of it. It'll be in the 7 range. I did have a couple requirements. I didn't want any silicone couplers on my piping, and I didn't want any dents or anything like that that's going to be noticeable in my piping, as much, you know, within reason, or without at least asking me first, because aesthetics are as important to me as anything else. So this process started in December. Tim got the car to him, I believe it was January or February. It was either early February or late January. But the car was towed to Mike's shop from Tim's to start the build. There was a slight delay because Tim wanted some additional work done on his car. So my car kind of got bumped back a couple weeks while they worked on Tim's. So anyway, it's time to work on my car and design these manifolds, so on and so forth, and turbo kit, oil lines, whatever the case may be. You know, they had time to work on it. We had set a goal to try to have it done in time for me to attend the Want to Go Fast South Florida event in late March. That was an aggressive goal. I wanted to go to it. I thought it'd be a great time to see what the car could do in a half-mile event. After that, the next goal was to go to Streetcar Takeover Indy. That was the big one. That was the drag racing event that I really wanted to go to, which that was in May, I believe. I think it was May 4th, somewhere in that time frame. And then after that, the plan was to take the car to Streetcar Takeover St. Louis a few weeks later. Once those events were done, we were then going to change my transmission to a Turbo 400 and get a little bit more serious and try to, you know, hopefully creep even lower into the 8s if at all possible. That was the plan going in. Both Tim King Racing and Mike at Proxes knew the dates. They knew the goal for the car, so on and so forth. So anyway, the build started sometime in February. They started working on it. They seemed to be making pretty good progress. From what I could tell, I popped in from time to time. I try not to go in there too often. I like to at least go in there maybe once a week just to get an update. Progress seemed to be going okay, as expected. We were getting close to the event for the Want to Go Fast event, and it was going to be tough. It was going to be tough. I know Mike at Proxes has been working hard on the car, trying to get everything as much done as he could beforehand. I know we were coming up to a deadline. As the deadline got near, I asked him point blank, I was like, look, I've got travel plans, airline tickets, everything kind of already arranged. If I'm not going to make this event, please tell me. Please tell me now so I can cancel and get a refund on this stuff. He kept me optimistic, saying his only response was simply, I'm working on it. I'm going to do my best to get you there. Don't cancel yet. I'm going to keep working on it till I have no other options. So long story short, let's not bore you to death with this. It didn't get done for that. It didn't get done in time. Luckily, through Travelocity, I was able to refund most of my money. I did lose a little over $1,000 on travel, but all in all, I consider that a win. So the next goal wasn't for another couple months, so certainly we would have no problem getting that done, and that was Streetcar Takeover Indy. So work seemed to slow down a little bit. I noticed that the turbo kit was making progress, but the exhaust section wasn't quite done. So we were within 2 weeks of Streetcar Takeover, 2 or 3 weeks of Streetcar Takeover Indy, and I was notified that, hey, my build is done to where I can take my headers to get armor coated, and I can get my car back over to Tim so he can finish the rest of the build, and the turbo piping kit could all go off to powder coat. So they had it all boxed up for me, nice and neatly, as you see here. I took the piping to get powder coat. I took the headers up to get the armor finishing put on it. And from that point, the car went back to Tim's shop. It was towed back over to Tim's shop so he could continue the rest of the build. A couple weeks went by, you know, waiting on the finishing. And I knew we were panicking because, you know, we had a lot to do to get this thing ready for Streetcar Takeover. So Tim was working hard on the car, getting the engine in, getting everything on the engine done, doing the wiring for the new tuning software, you know, doing his thing. He got to a standstill until the headers came in and he could bolt the rest of the turbo kit up. Like I say, the exhaust wasn't done, but Mike assured me that if I got the car back to him within a day or two, he could get the tail section of the exhaust done. So I wasn't too concerned about that at that point. So they finally called and said, hey, all my powder coat's done, all my finishing is done. I rushed right up that same day, picked it up, took it to Tim's shop. And Tim called me with some concerns. He put the car up on the lift to install this. He's like, hey, Doug, first thing I want you to know before I do any of this is I know how picky you are. I want you to see these dents. And I'm like, what dents? He goes, these dents. And he showed me, as you're seeing right now, the dents that were underneath my car. These are what he sent me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to look horrible. So I immediately texted Mike And I let him know, and I was informed that they would look at it when the car came back and make it right, fix it, whatever they needed to do, you know. And I was like, okay, well, we're still strapped for time, so we need to get this car to Streetcar Takeover Indy. So Tim started installing the piping the very next day. And at this point, he calls me and says, Doug, you're not going to believe this. It doesn't fit. I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't fit? He goes, it's nowhere near fitting. These manifolds on the side don't fit. So this is where I think everything kind of took a downward spiral. I called Proxes and I said, hey, Tim said this stuff isn't fitting. It's not lining up. It's not fitting. And his response was, and I asked him, I said, can you please just run 20 minutes up the road and check it? Maybe there's an angle that it needs to go. Maybe there's something wrong, but it's obviously not fitting. So they wouldn't do it. He said, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm too busy. I can't do it. For whatever reason, he couldn't do it. Streetcar Takeover's a week and a half away, and he can't go up there to get it fitted. He point blank told me that I had to send the car back to him. So that stopped Tim on the work he could do. So I arranged for a tow truck that day, and I let him know that, hey, the car's going to be coming. Please jump on this right away. And I was told by Mike that I don't have room for it today. All my bays are full. It'll be later in the week, maybe by next Friday or something like that. We could get it in. And I was like, this isn't right. You know, I got Streetcar Takeover coming up, and you know, your pipes that I just got powder coated, finished, and all this stuff isn't fitting. So that went on for a while. Once I realized that he wasn't going to get me in or make an effort to come up and look at it, and a few days went by, and as Streetcar Takeover Indy came closer, I realized it's a pipe dream. You know, I'm certainly not going to the one event I wanted to go to. Frustrated, I even thought about selling the car. I thought, I'm just going to part this thing out. I'm going to be done with it. I'm over it. You know, I didn't expect that out of Mike at Proxes. I expected him to go out of his way to make this, project work. So anyway, a week went by, I kind of cooled down. I had some friends of you call me and tell me to calm down. Don't worry about it. We'll hit some other events coming up here soon. And so I thought, okay, fair enough, So I gave it a second chance. I talked to Big Mike over at Proxes, not the owner, but the mechanic, and he assured me, he's like, Doug, you get your car back over here, I'll take care of you. I'll make sure that any little thing you don't like, I clean up or do the best I can to get taken care of to where it's going to look good, You know the kind of work we do. And I'm like, hesitantly, I was like, all right, I'll do it. So long story short, I brought the car back over in April. I think it was like April 8th, the car was sent back over. They needed to repair the manifolds that did not fit. And they needed to finish up some odds and ends. They had to finish installing my drag wing, which I had asked them to do on a separate amount. I'd asked them if they would please finish it. Once again, when the car was sent back over, there were still things that Tim had to do that he couldn't do until he got the car back one more time. So they knew that it wasn't going to be a finished product when it left Proxes. It needed to go back to Tim for some additional work. So it's been over there since April to fix the manifold that didn't fit. In the meantime, like I said at the beginning, I thought, well, why wait? I'll go ahead and upgrade to the Turbo 400 now, since that was my plan anyway. So Tim got me set up with a Turbo 400. And we needed to go over and take my stock transmission out, which was fairly easy, fairly straightforward to do. But Proxes offered to go ahead and remove it, so we went ahead and let them remove the rear end and the transmission, so I could get the Turbo 400. So that was done. I picked that stuff up, took it back to Tim's shop, and then when the Turbo 400 came in, me and Tim offered to set it up in there. They said, no, we'll take care of it, no big deal. We're just going to set it up in there on a piece of plywood or something, which is what they did. And I asked him, and Tim was with me when I asked, can you make a trans mount? Because obviously my car wasn't designed to use the same cross member. So she's like, sure, no problem. I'll make you a trans mount. So that's what they did. That was added to their scope of work as well. along with some other things that were added at different times, which I'm not disputing whatsoever. But the main thing was getting the turbo kit and the exhaust done. So anyway, as time goes on now, we're getting into June here, and I have to send my car to another fabricator to make a roll cage for me, and he's waiting on my car. So I keep letting Mike and them know that, hey, how long until this gets done? Because it's been a couple months and I still got to get my car to another fabricator. And I'm told it'll be done on Wednesday. Then Wednesday comes, I'm told it'll be done Friday. When Friday comes, can you pick it up next Monday? Next Monday comes, can you come back Wednesday again? So this goes on, and finally, I get the text message that says, hey, everything's done. You know, we'll fit the exhaust once you get your new 9-inch rear end in the car. We'll finish the exhaust, so on and so forth. But you can take it to the other fab shop, come pay for it. We fixed the dents. We put some tape over them to where underneath where you don't see them, and cleaned it up a little bit. And I'm like, okay, great, okay. So went over there, looked at the car, it looked fine, no problem. They still had a few touch-ups left to do. They said, can you come back the next day or two, and we'll let you know when you can arrange a tow truck. So, so Mike had texted me and said, hey, your car's done. By the way, we put a temporary transmission mount on the car. And my question to him was, hey, is it safe? Can I run the car? He first said, yeah, it's safe. You can run the car with it. Then shortly after in the text message, after doing further research, he said, no, you can't. You can't. It's not really safe. It's more designed for transporting the car, but it's not completed. And I was like, oh, okay. He said, we just don't have time to make one. My thought on this is, wait a minute, you've had 2 months, you know. You don't have time to make it. I mean, I don't know how long it takes to make a transmission mount, or a brace, but so be it. He said, but I'll get you a CAD file and you can have one made out of billet. And I was like, well, I don't really want a CAD file. I just wanted a mount done. I mean, I don't know where, I don't have a machine shop per se. You have contracts with machine shops. And his response was simply, well, I can't promise you when a machine shop will be able to get to it. The machine shop we use is really busy, but here's the CAD file. You can have whatever machine shop you want to design it, or build or cut it, whatever the case, whatever they do with it. So I basically paid on my invoice a couple $100 for a CAD file. I thought that was odd. So anyway, I went as arranged to get, when Mike texted me that evening to go pick my car up. He wasn't there. His mechanic, Big Mike, was there. Talked to Big Mike, and Big Mike's like, yeah, Mike's not here right now. You know, we talked for a little bit, small talk, just talked about some of the nuances on the car. Reassured me that everything's pretty much okay. And at that point, you know, he goes, well, Mike's not here, but I got your invoice in here. And I'm like, okay, great. So we went into his office. He prints off an invoice. Now, I was expecting, realistically, I was expecting $7,000 for the turbo and exhaust system. And I was expecting some other charges for the drag wing, which never got done. But I figured, you know, they're going to finish it when the car comes back or whatever the case may be. And I expected some little odds and ends charges here and there. Nowhere did I expect $11,000. I mean, to be honest with you, I was a little sticker shocked, even myself. I thought, wow, that's a lot, you know, especially for a car that's not complete yet. That just seems like a lot. So I was a little sticker shocked, but I told him, I was like, well, here's my credit card. I mean, I kind of expressed my concern on some of the charges with Big Mike, and he goes, well, I just work here. I don't do the invoicing. He goes, I can understand your point of view, but I can also understand Mike's point of view. He goes, I'm not going to take your money right now, even though I offered. I'll let you talk to Mike. You can talk to Mike the next day. So I said, well, when will Mike be in town? He said, he'll be back in town Saturday. So I'm like, okay, great. So I went back Saturday to pay him again. And of course, Mike once again wasn't there. I'm thinking, wow, this This is 2 times now I've been here to pay my bill and he's not here. And he says, just go ahead and call him. So I call him and I say, hey man, I just wanted to discuss the bill a little bit and make sure we're on the same page on this. And at this point I start feeling like I caused him all this damage. He kept saying, well, you changed the order and you changed the transmission and stuff like that. And I'm only getting $25 an hour on this and so on and so forth. And I'm like, I don't think it's right. I think there's some charges you were nickel and diming me on that we certainly didn't talk about. I was never told a price on, but whatever. I mean, you know, after I argued with him for about 15 minutes on the phone, I tried to plead my case to him on why I thought it was a little bit overcharging. He pled his case to me on why he felt like it was fair. And I was like, okay, fair enough. You know, so be it. I was like, we'll just agree to disagree, you know? And, you know, I wouldn't, some things just aren't worth arguing over in a few dollars here and there. I thought, you know what, so be it. At least I'm getting my car back and it'll be good. So I said, I'll be up there Monday to go ahead and take care of this. So I go up Monday with Neil. Neil's my one of my sales reps here at the office to pay my bill. And in the meantime, I should backtrack a little bit. In the meantime, he had told me on the phone, you tell me what you think is fair. So I created a little invoice saying what I thought was fair, you know. Whether he took it or not, it's irrelevant. It's just what I thought was fair, you know, which was reasonable, very, very reasonable, by the way. So me and Neil were there on Monday to pay for my car, and I go to give Mike a credit card, and he says, I told you in text I'm not taking your credit card. I'm like, what? I even LOL'd on his text because I thought he was joking, just being a smartass. I'm thinking, as you can see here, he advertises that he takes credit card. It's right here on his website, as you're looking at right now. Proxes Tuning, credit card, PayPal, the whole 9 yards. And furthermore, I've paid him with credit card numerous times. I've used my credit card, no matter what work I've had done on my car. And so I go to pay him. He's like, no, I'm not taking credit card. It has to be cash. I'm cash only. I'm like, come on, Mike. I'm not carrying this kind of money around with me in cash. I was like, don't be unreasonable. You know, you need to take my credit card. Quit playing games. I need my car back. I got a fab guy waiting to do my roll cage. Just take my card so I can get the heck out of here. And then he's like, no. And then we got back into an argument of, you don't think my charges are fair? You don't think this? And I was like, no, I don't think they're fair. Here's the list. I'm going to show you what I thought was fair and what I would authorize, you know, if I was doing it. But fine. I said, point blank, run my credit card for whatever you want. We can argue this stuff later. We can talk about this stuff later. At least let me get my car out here, let you get paid, and, you know, so be it. You know, the car's got to come back anyway to finish the daggone exhaust system, you know, that didn't get completed still. So that turned into a little bit of a heated argument. It got kind of personal when, because I felt like I was being alienated. I felt like I was being, my character was being judged, that my money wasn't good unless it was cash. And I thought, this is crazy. This is crazy. I was like, so I left. I got my truck. I didn't say a word. I left. And I thought, and a couple of days went by, and I cooled down a lot about it. And I was like, you know what? That was really stupid the way that went down. So I'll go back. I'm going to reason with him again. I'm not carrying cash. This is silly. He takes credit cards. It's posted all over. It doesn't need to be like this. I'm sure he feels bad about it as well, too. So I go back to Proxes, and a couple days later, I'd cooled down. I was with I went there originally, and I was like, look, I want my car. I need to get my car. The fab shop guy's been waiting on it to do my roll cage. Here's my credit card. Please, please, please take it. And thinking that he would be like, okay, fine. No, he wouldn't take it again. I was dumbfounded. I called my service manager to have him come up because I was going to push the damn car out. I was like, this is ridiculous. You know, I'm going to push the car out. Some of my friends on Facebook had said something about you can call the police and the police will say, hey, if you're offering legal form of tender, they can't hold it. So I even called the police to see if they would at least make him take a damn credit card so I could get my car out. And the police, of course, said, no, you got to pay him cash, whatever, if that's the only thing he requires. So at that point, I thought something must be suspicious. Something is weird about this. Mike has never, ever insisted I pay cash on anything before. There's something not adding up. Even though I didn't agree with his price necessarily, I was willing to pay him. I never said, hey, I'm going to back charge my card, or hey, I'm going to try to prevent you from getting paid. No, none of that happened. But I definitely got, I was definitely perplexed and my wheels started spinning. I talked to some people, said, why is he, what is and the question was asked by me by several people is, what is he hiding? What is going on? There's no reason why he would take cash, why he would advertise cash on his website or credit card on his website and all these different forms of payment, but insist on cash only. So that made me think, well, I've never really had to question his quality too much, but he did put dents under my car, but he said he was going to clean them up and fix them and make them look nice. So I didn't think there'd be much to it, but the more I thought about it, I thought, yeah, this could be a problem, you know? So knowing that I wasn't sure what I was getting, I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and give him his cashier's check, even though I really don't want to. It had to be a cash or cashier's check, and I certainly wasn't going to carry that much cash with me. So I got him a cashier's check for the balance, and I got my invoice that he gave me, and the invoice was very vague. And as a matter of fact, it was so vague that it didn't really detail much in the way of parts whatsoever. It just says commission turbo kit, and then I noticed the invoice he had given me 3 days prior. A lot of the wording had changed. Instead of saying turbo kit, it now said hot and cold pipe. And I noticed the fine print on the bottom had changed quite a bit too, which I thought was odd. And I'll show you copies of what it had changed to. The first one I was given versus the second one I was given a few days later. You can take a look for yourself and see if that seems weird that he would change that. I found it odd. But I just basically have a letter here that I wanted him to sign. Since my car was not on a lift, I couldn't see the work that was done. I knew it was going to the fab shop to get the roll cage. And I just want to make sure that everything I paid for, since things got so out of hand, was on the car or installed on the car. Even if it wasn't installed, that's fine, as long as it was in the car, ready to be installed. I mean, designed, fabbed up, whatever the case may be. He refused to sign. Here's his response. Here's a little section of when I've tried to ask him at least 3 times just to sign it and how non-threatening it was. You can decide for yourself.
No, that's very subjective. I don't have to sign that. I don't have to sign a piece of paper, and I will not.
You can also notice that the police officer standing there during all this basically had forced me or kept agitating me in such a way to where I needed to go. So I'm trying to look over my invoice and just make notes. And once again, he wanted no part of that. He wanted me to just get it and go, give him the check and go. So once again, you can see here the police officer in the background saying, you just need to go. You don't need to sign your invoice. You don't need to look at it. Just pay him and go.
Greg, are you going to pay or we go?
Can I look over the invoice?
He's saying right now,
Can I look over the invoice?
pay or leave.
I can't look at my invoice before I agree to it?
I'm just telling you, that's
There's a
what
place for my signature.
Okay.
I can't read it? I mean, if I can't read it, I guess I'm being forced to pay without reading the invoice. That's fine. Thanks. I'll pay it.
So that's what I did. And that's what leads us to where we are here. Now, I had the car towed. They pushed the car out. It was pouring down rain. After I paid them, they weren't going to roll my windows up. I had to ask them to roll my windows up. And you can hear his comments. He don't know if he should roll my windows up or not.
Open the door, Rick.
Get out.
Take his car outside.
You mean to roll a window?
Hey,
It
that's
has
on
no
them.
battery in it.
That's on them.
I would have
That's on
offered him
them.
to use a jump pack.
That's
but
on them.
After this, I'm not sure that I do.
That's on them.
They did do it. I don't know if I should, thank them for that or not. You would think that would be kind of expected. But they did do it. And after this video, I'll have a link for the full interaction when I did go get my car. It's pretty interesting to watch. And I'll make sure that we have a link for the full video. But But that's where we are. So now my car is towed to the shop that's doing my roll cage, and when I arrived, the car hadn't been touched. It was the very next day. You can see what the car looked like when I opened it up. I have nice carbon fiber wrap. I got white interior in part of my car. And you can see things were just kind of thrown in there. Very sloppily. There was no care taken. They didn't care, what it looked like. You can also see when I popped my trunk open, everything was just piled in the trunk. I mean, finished products, unfinished products. It was a mess. Once again, it looked like no care was given whatsoever. We put the car on a lift to take a look to see if everything was on the car. And as you can see, the first thing I noticed walking to the front of the car when it was on the lift was the dent sticking out in my front fender, where I had paid him to install custom transmission cooler mounts. Obviously, there was a measurement error, or there was no care putting my front bumper on, but either way, I have a nice size dent protruding out of my front bumper. I will have to get fixed by somebody. And you can also see my car's wrapped, so the wrap will have to come off, and then that'll have to get fixed. Next thing you know, my intake pipe, I asked for it to make sure I got plenty of clearance because, I don't want it rubbing or vibrating or doing anything like that. I barely have, it's actually physically touching my radiator. I can't even get a credit card's width in there. It actually touches. So if my motor moves at all or this moves, I'm going to assume it's going to hit even more. When the car was on the lift, I looked underneath, and of course, as you can see here, the exhaust is partly done, but then it stops about 1.5 feet before it exits the car. My mufflers that I bought, one is in a box laying here on the ground, it was in the trunk, and the other one's out of the box. I've got my brand new turbos that I delivered to him in boxes, brand new from Precision, along with my wastegates that were in boxes. There's no paperwork for them. I got wastegate springs loosely laying in a box with other miscellaneous parts. No boxes, no turbo boxes, no paperwork, no anything, just everything kind of thrown and piled into boxes together. That's how it was put into my car. To say I'm frustrated and to know how much I'm going to have to pay another shop to fix this and complete this, I don't know yet. I haven't gotten the full estimates yet. I'll get the full estimates once my roll cage is complete, but the whole process has been very frustrating. Multiple tow bills, a little bit higher quote than I was promised, a horrible attitude given toward me, and judging my character and refusing to take an obvious payment that he's accepted from me in the past. I did my part. I got my car. I paid his full price. I'll leave it for you to judge whether you feel that I got my money's worth or not. I'm not looking to get anything back from him right now. I may in the future, maybe collect whatever I collect from him. If I pursue that route, I'll donate toward charity somewhere here local in the community or something along those lines. But I'm doing this mostly because I just don't want you or anybody else to get put in the same scenario. I'm not going to say he's a bad shop. I'm not going to say they do bad work. But I will say on this particular project of mine, they certainly under-delivered. So please, my advice to you is when hiring a shop to do work on your car, especially any type of custom work, do your homework. Get things in writing up front. Don't make the mistake I made. And make them sign an agreement up front stating there will be no damage to your car and that you're going to get all your materials the way they're supposed to be given back to you. Anyway, that's it. That's kind of where I'm at with it right now. I hope you enjoyed the photos, some portions of the video. Some other sections will be left down here for you to watch if you want to watch full clips of things. That's fine too. Anyway, I will talk to you later, and hopefully I'll see you at the track soon. Peace out.